Hello my friends and welcome to a brand new video. It is my first video of 2020. No, it's my first video of 2021. It's gonna be a long year. So since we're starting off a new year, I thought I would try and tackle one of my many fabric hoarding divisions. So I've got a lot of flannels because when I just started sewing I was like, yeah, let's make clothes out of flannel, you know, rockin'. So I thought I would take a trip down memory lane and do that. So if you wanted to see my process, stick around, let's do it, let's get on with it. My first step was to go through my fabric stash and pick the color scheme I wanted, and I decided on mostly blues and pinks. I started with drafting 1/4 of a circle skirt pattern from one of my bigger scraps. Then I cut 3 more of those in different fabrics. I serged them all together, leaving an opening. So as you can see, there's a little piece of extra fabric and we're just gonna snip that off. So I'm leaving the front of the skirt open for now because I think I'm going to do buttons down the front because I think that'll be really cute. Also, I definitely need to iron this fabric. Next, it was time for me to work on each patchwork piece. I cut out one that was roughly the dimensions that I wanted them to be, and then I used it as a guide to cut out each piece. I ended up cutting out about 25 5-inch by 5-inch squares. I laid out my patches, deciding what pattern I'd want them to go in. Then I pinned them and sewed. They were all done with French seams. This was quite time consuming. I did 2 sets of ruffles, one larger than the other. So after I stitched together both of my patches for both of the ruffles, I'm going to connect them before attaching them to the circle skirt, just because that'll be easier. So what I'm going to do with the bottom one, because it's considerably larger, almost 2 times the size, I'm going to do 2 running stitches all the way across the top, and then we're going to tie a knot on one end of each one and tug on it so it creates ruffles. Okay, so as you can see, I've done 2 parallel lines all the way across, and on one side I tied the top string in a knot, and on the other side, if I can find it, I tied the top string in a knot, bottom string in a knot. And so on the one where the bottom string's in a knot, you're going to yank pretty hard. I think you only yank one of the strings. I've never done this before. Okay, I figured it out. So this isn't it fully done, but so now I'm working with the bottom string, and so you see how there's the bobbin thread and the thread that came out of the top needle? I'm only pulling on that one, and when you do, it gathers up and you can just move the gathers along. So I'm gonna do that. I gathered the bottom ruffle until it was the same size as the smaller one, and then I did a French seam to connect the two. So now that the 2 ruffles are attached to one another, first I'm going to go around and just hem the bottom. I'm just going to hem the very bottom of the bottom ruffle because there's a raw edge there, and after I do that, I'm going to go and connect the 2 edges of the ruffles by doing a French seam. So I'm going to do that. As you can see, the seams from the French seams are really bulky, so where you're going to hem along the bottom, I just snip the little ends off. I turned the raw edge over once and hemmed, Then I folded it over again, encasing the raw edges. Once you've sewn that bit together, you've got a big old skirt to add to the bottom of your other skirt. So before I go ahead and attach the ruffles to the bottom of the circle skirt, I am going to go along, see how there's these two rough edges? I'm going to go along and hem them because that's where we're going to have the buttons, so we want to have those edges be cleaned up a little bit. I attached the panels to the bottom of the circle skirt using a French seam, and as you can see, I overlapped the front of the circle skirt just so that it remains closed. My helpful pro tip is that if you can't see the needle to thread it because your eyes won't focus, that means you're too tired to sew and it's time to take a break. Okay, it is a brand new day and I am ready to start on the top half. So I'm thinking that it would be really nice to have a little break from the color, and I think I'm going to do the waistband in this black fabric. I've only got about this much, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of piecing, but I think we can make it work. So let's do that. I cut out a strip that would be as long as my waist, and then I folded it in half to form the waistband. I pinned the waistband to the top of the skirt so that the good sides were facing one another, and then I serged along the top, encasing the raw edge. I am slightly exhibiting a dilemma. I don't know if I should just make the top like spaghetti straps, because then I could wear a long sleeve shirt under it, which I really like doing. Or I don't know if I should do big puffy sleeves, because I really like big puffy sleeves, but I don't know if that would be a bit too much for this. So I think I'll do an Instagram poll and see what happens. The poll was absolutely no help, so I ended up just choosing to do no sleeves. I started forming the body piece by just cutting out 4 equal size pieces to cover the stomach area. Making the cups was really just trial and error with moving around these squares. I ended up finding a position that I liked and pinned. I stitched down the top as well as hemmed the sides so that there weren't any raw edges. I hemmed the raw edge and then I serged the rest of the bodice to the waistband. Okay, my friends, I should let you see it. Now it's time to work on the closures. So I'm going to do a little variation of wrapped buttons, but they're going to be round because I think I'm going to do little loops to go over it. So let's just do that first. I cut a circle out of each of my fabrics, making it a bit larger than I'd want my buttons. Then I did a very simple running stitch around the edge. I slightly tugged on the string so that it would gather, and then I put in some stuffing. Then I pulled the string tight and secured it with a knot. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and connect these where I want them to. I'm going to do 2 here, 1 on the belt, and then I'm going to do 3 on the skirt. So I'm gonna just attach them by, you see the little, the bottom? That's the part that's gonna be pressed up against the bodice. Okay, now that we put on the little baubles, there's a bunch, okay, you can't see them. It's time to do the little loops that go around. Now I've done exactly 1 before, so I'm practically an expert. So first we're just going to take our embroidery thread with our embroidery needle. It's a lot thicker and stronger, so that's what I'm using. And I'm going to tie some knots with it where it needs to be beside the button. Okay, now that we have sewn it on, we're going to make a big loop with our thread, okay? And then instead of going through, we're just going to pull this as another loop and pull. Oh. Okay, and then we're just going to keep passing it through and tugging to secure it. See, it's slowly making a little chain. And then we're going to do that until it's as long as we want it to be. Okay, now that we've got it to the length we want, which I did just enough to wrap around the button because we don't want any holes, I'm going to take the loop and then I'm just going to pull my thread through, tug it nice and tight, and then stitch it right back into where we had it starting. And now we've got a nice little loop. I just tied off the loop and now we're ready to work on the rest. Okay, so now that we've finished the buttons, we are all done. So I am going to give it a good little press and then I will show you the pictures. Overall, I really love how this dress turned out. I think it's really cute. I think when you wear it, you really have to play into that like cartoon character style, but that's not a problem for me. I love that. I think if I did it again, I'd really like to see how it looked like as a full dress with sleeves, because I don't like wearing just straps, but I love wearing shirts underneath, so I think that'll be really convenient for me, but I think it'd be funky to have like puff sleeves with this. I think that could be really cute. Yeah, I really just enjoy how it turned out. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you try this at home, and if you do, show me. That would be so epic. You can follow me on Instagram here. You'll probably see more pictures of my creations. And have an amazing day. Thank you for watching. Bye.